Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Niles, you should be able to hear us. Come back towards us if you can hear us. Okay. Niles, can you hear us? I hope you can. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Niles, can you hear us? 1, 2, 3.
Good evening. We'd like to call the order of the Poolsville Parks Board, October 4th, 2023 meeting to order. Present myself, Tim Pike, Doug McKenney, Pat Trainer, Jeff Eck, Gail Partain, and I think Terry might be joining us online, and Doug McKenney will be late. Not Doug. Jeff McIntyre, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I made a mistake, guys. Okay. All right. The next board meeting will be, Parks Board meeting will be November 8th, 2023. Citizens' comments on the agenda items?
Yeah, so there was one, was
Yep.
there one person signed up to speak?
One person?
Okay,
Okay.
all right. If you'd like,
Well, that's for the agenda
if
items,
it,
right?
is it for the agenda item, then let's just wait until we get there. and
Okay.
do it that way.
All right. Why don't we get some old business, like approval of minutes?
Mhm.
All right. We have July minutes in front of us. You guys want to wait till Jeff gets here, or you want to do it now? I was here.
Do we need him?
I think everyone was here, right?
Gail wasn't here, was the only one who wasn't
All
here for
right,
that
so it was
meeting.
4 of us, right?
So, yeah, so that works for the form,
Okay.
right?
Need a motion? Approve the July minutes, please.
Moved.
Second?
That's it, right?
Yes.
You made the motion?
Already.
Yes, he did.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. Abstention?
Abstention?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion passed. No, it's okay, I used to do this, so I'm filling in. All right, next, the September minutes. I was not here,
And you were the only one that wasn't here for that meeting.
right, so I cannot, I'll just abstain from that one, but motion after you guys look them over. And gals.
This is the ones we got like last, yeah.
It got on Monday, yeah.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
for last meeting.
I make a motion to approve minutes as
right.
published.
Motion by Pat,
Second.
second by Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
4. Any nays? No. 1 abstention. Okay, 401. You got it? Okay. All right, old business, discussion of the proposed Hunter Run Trail. Do you want to give a little background?
Certainly.
Niles, like you-
So, as I think most people know, this was discussed at last month's meeting. Again, this is about the stage at which we are doing this to review potentially developing a concept plan for the trail. So, this estimated cost for the concept plan is $54,000. And so that's where we are at the process. The commissioners requested a recommendation from the Parks Board to either move forward with a concept plan or not. At the September Parks Board meeting, the board heard testimony from residents both for and against the trail. I don't know if we need anything. I went a little bit more in the background last time, but if anybody has any questions, we can either start from there or hear from the residents.
Okay.
I would suggest if there's any new information that you want to testify to.
Well, we only have one person on the list.
Oh, okay.
I do know we've got others who are coming, but I know we can't hold it up for that.
Is this going to be new information? You probably don't know.
It's citizens who want to provide comments.
I get that, but, okay. All right, well,
So the person who's signed up now, if you want them
Yeah.
to speak, yeah.
Kathy Jankowski, please.
Allow them to.
What?
Allow them to say something.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, yeah.
And then if the people come, we can.
We can always go back to it, sure.
So you have the diagram and everything?
Diagram, yes,
Yeah, that's,
diagram. Name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Kathy Jankowski. I live at 16900 Dr. Moore Court. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about the proposed trail. And I will add that I'm going to provide both, I think, new information as well as just my own testimony. I am a stress management coach, and I love nature. I agree wholeheartedly with the idea that everyone benefits from access to nature and the outdoors, and that this is a critical component of our well-being. Even before the pandemic, more than 90% of the people I coach were experiencing moderate to high stress. Our access to the outdoors here in Poolsville is one of the reasons I love living here. You can get from here, Town Hall, to Sycamore Landing and the C&O Canal in under 15 minutes. It also is less than 15 minutes to Hughes Hollow, a wonder-filled walk for birders, sunflowers, and the beauty of all 4 seasons. Less than 15 minutes is the Monocacy Aqueduct and the beautiful Monocacy River. Edwards Ferry or White's Ferry are just 20 minutes, and if you get to White's Ferry, you can get a really great sub at the grill. I've lived here for 25 years and have spent many happy hours around town in Stevens and Helmholtz Parks, at the pond near JPMS, and I am now a grandmother of a 2.5-year-old, and Helmholtz Park is back in rotation. But a town's considerations are wider than individual needs. I have lived on Dr. Moore Court for many years and love my neighbors, and I was really moved by the expertise behind the testimony they brought last month. I've been a strategy consultant to public benefit organizations for over 30 years, so I just wanted to step forward and share how I might approach this project and maybe provide some guidance. I do not know how things work at the level of detail that you all work at. And I want to say I admire that you all give so much time and expertise to the town of Poolsville. Like I said, my husband laughs that it'll take a crowbar to get me out of Poolsville. So feel free to correct any misunderstandings that I have. It feels to me like much more work has to be done at this level, the park board's level, prior to making a recommendation to the commissioners to conduct a costly needs assessment. What I heard my neighbors expressing last month were concerns about design and build costs, safety, integration with the town's current master plan, and environmental stewardship. What I'd like to see is the original project documents from 25 years ago. That research, those considerations, that assessment. There's a lot of information about our town, the geography, how it's organized, that really hasn't changed. Then I'd ask for help from members of the community on updating this document with current considerations and a revised scope of work. We heard several people last time share that they have experience here. Let's engage them. It even sounded like there is enough knowledge in the community to highlight areas where the scope of work needs to be updated. For example, I heard an understandable confusion at the last meeting about whether the trail is meant for walking, biking, strollers, wheelchairs, or some combination. This would affect the width, the materials, the costs, all of it could be pinned down to scenarios with various options. I heard there are environmental standards and fees that didn't exist years ago. All of our maps show where the trail crosses federal lands and wetlands. I feel like these could be brought current, documented, and estimated before the needs assessment. Suburban trails are not a new concept, and there are numerous best practices. For example, plan for water, and the situation we have here is a floodplain. Also, best practice, avoid cutting through undisturbed areas and maintain wildlife habitats and other valuable ecological functions. I heard questions arise whether this proposed trail is aligned with our town's current master plan, including environmental and other sustainability goals and aspirations. After the trail is built, what is the level of effort needed to maintain it, and what would this cost? Updating the previous scope of work would give us a general idea on what we are actually talking about today in terms of design and range of costs. We would no longer be grabbing at straws. Then I'd like to know what would be added with the $54,000. I didn't know how much it was. Before we spend that kind of money, I think we would want to do a round of briefings here in the town. This is where we are. This is what we know. This is what it will cost the town to contract a formal needs assessment. Do you think we should spend $54,000 this way? By taking this approach, we revisit an old idea, build on what we already know, engage the community in assessing its viability now, and weave the process into other town priorities and initiatives. We would also learn if the desire for the trail is anecdotal or really embraced by the community. Finally, I urge everyone to take time to really consider the safety issues raised, which would need to be part of the information we shared. A number of years ago, I consulted to a coalition of environmental organizations in the Washington region. I learned a tiny bit about Rails to Trails efforts. In all trail building projects, perceptions of safety influence how, when, or if people will use a trail. Research shows that trails that are perceived unsafe do not attract new users. It is not a case of build them and they will come if safety is an issue. I'd want to know what level of support from current hikers, walkers the trail can expect. Then I'd want to know more about the community's perception of safety for the area surrounding the proposed trail. I'd also want to know and address the perceptions of safety from our neighbors along the trail. Isolation is a key reason trails are not used and why new trails are not adapted to by new users. This proposed trail is very isolated. Last month I heard safety issues arise that had to do with how isolated parts of the proposed trail will impact things like potential crime, disconnected youth, strangers walking in the backyards of families with small children, or strangers just walking onto private property as they currently do. I heard concerns about accidents on the trail or instances where emergency vehicles cannot get to people on the trail. I also wonder where people will park at the trailheads if they want to use the trail. Will this be on neighborhood streets? Will there be designated spots? Will this be monitored somehow? A few solutions were offered, such as fencing off the backyards for homes along the trail. Costs such as these can be estimated and added to the original scope of work to give us a better handle on how to address safety concerns even before a needs assessment is contracted. I would just like to repeat, though, that research shows that safety concerns about trails negatively influence residents' use of a trail. I heard testimony last time that safety issues along this isolated trail may increase homeowners' insurance. I'm not sure why homeowners along the trail should carry the cost of the trail. And I'm not a homeowner on the trail. Particularly if it is not really something that has a good chance of being used by more than just a few people. Why should homeowners carry the cost in years going forward? An unfortunate consequence of these safety concerns is that in the desire to provide a place for some people to enjoy nature and get some exercise, which for them is episodic, the town will create daily and ongoing negative perceptions of safety for neighbors along the trail. In wanting to provide some individuals a healthy experience in nature, in a community where we are literally surrounded by nature 15 minutes away, we negatively impact the sense of safety and possible health outcomes for the families along the trail. This needs to be understood and weighed. To this end, I'd like the Parks Board to look at whether the trail is in the spirit of the trail system already in Poolsville. I've looked at the trail maps on the web, and there are no other trails in Poolsville where the design of the trail is to run through isolated areas and along neighborhood backyards. There are a few cut-throughs, like to the pool and the high school and to several parks, but there's no instance where the actual design of the trail is through isolated areas and people's backyards. Finally, I would wonder if there is an easy, more equitable alternative. Maybe a loop trail to the pond and back is all that's needed, even raised, like in the Everglades. Walking loops connected to parks, where Halmos is right across the street, are promising approaches when seeking to increase population-level physical activity and love of nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to say something about the trail? Any new? Does she have to, do you have to sign the time sheet? All right. You write it down.
Just a clarifying question, it's not anything official. But the folks who applauded, and I think the women did a wonderful job, are you not in favor of the trail? Not in favor. All right. She did a wonderful. Okay, well, thank you, just a very informal poll.
I think you had some great points. And would you like to join our board? Yeah, sorry.
I also thought she made some nice points. My name is Joyce Berger, and I live in the Elizabeth's Delight neighborhood. And I am for this new trail. During the pandemic, my husband and I exhausted every single trail, every single neighborhood, walking through town, around town, in the woods, etc. So to explore a new trail right now would be lovely, really nice. And if it's town property, why can't we use it as town residents? So that's my thinking. And yeah. Do I need to say anything else? I don't think so. I'm good.
No?
Whatever you want to say.
Thank you.
That's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
No, I did not prepare. That's my kid's math homework.
Wait, bring it up here, we'll help you with it. I had a math minor in college.
Okay, I'm going to sign my name.
Thank you.
So, my name is Christine.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
It's like a reunion.
Okay, My name is Christine Sproat, and I live in the Stony Springs neighborhood, and we have a really awesome trail that runs through that neighborhood. And our trail does back up to many people's backyards and woods. And it's a great trail, and my family has enjoyed walking on that trail, and we just try to connect through Elizabeth's Delight and around the different neighborhoods. But when I heard about the possibility of another trail opening in our community and that there possibly could be town land available for that, it was really exciting. I mean, obviously, though, Kathy brought up some really great points, to think about as far as, the environmental impacts. I would really want to know what that was. And also, I mean, if it is going to be near people's homes, I would want that to be done in a very thoughtful way. So, but I do really appreciate and I really like the idea of this trail. So, I mean, that's all I really wanted to say in support of it. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Did you get her name?
Good evening, Kristen Rowe. I live in Elizabeth's Delight, and sort of just coming to this today. Was so excited to hear about this possibility of these trails being added to the town infrastructure, and my first thought was, what great news. And I'm so excited to hear that the town is considering making this improvement. Frankly, one of the reasons we moved to Poolsville 10 years ago is we were looking for this great combination of being in the ag reserve, but also having the benefits of the infrastructure of a community in a residential area that was connected. And those trails are really a part of that in so many ways. And so an opportunity to build upon that is just a plus. As a user of the trails on about a daily basis, I can personally say how much it's meant to me and how much I feel that it has connected me to other people in the community, supports a really healthy lifestyle. I see people on the trails every day, all ages, all abilities, and really seeing the enjoyment that they get out of it. As Christine said, of course, it should be done in a way that considers the environment and is respectful of all of the property owners that would be impacted in some way. And so, doing a feasibility study seems like a great next step, but I just really cannot imagine a downside to building on our existing trail system and really see it as something we could even highlight as part of what our town offers, saying we've added this amount of trail space. It's only going to make us look better. So thank you so much for your consideration of that.
Clarifying question.
Come on up. Thank you.
Kevin Nunes, 16905 Dr. Moore Court. Just a question about the cost of the assessment. I think $54,000 was mentioned, so that was somewhat new information. And then just the process. So if it's approved, do we go out competitively for quotes on the assessment? Who executes the assessment? What's the solicitation process, that type of thing?
So in this, yeah, I'll address this part. So in this case, that number, and that is for the town engineer to engage in the process of doing this work as part of the scope of work that the town engineer has in contract with the town. So there wouldn't be necessarily a solicitation process for something like this, just because it's part of the purview of an existing contract.
But it would be additive costs beyond what we
Yes,
already.
no, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Got it. Thank you.
And, I mean,
Yeah.
the current process would, in order to, whatever we're talking about here, would require the town and/or its homeowners in that area to come to some sort of resolution, because right now, those properties are not the company, or they're not the,
Let me clarify. I think I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
So on all of the properties adjoining where the trail would go, there is an easement on the property to do the trail. So that is already in place. So that wouldn't be a part of the process. Now, obviously, there'd be conversations with the homeowners about what would be done, but just as a clarifying point to that specific part of the question.
Okay, so I'm Terry Gregg, and I live at 19606 Seymour Court. I do back to the trail. I've lived in the house for 30 years. I've dealt with hunters on my property. I'm curious if anybody has spoken to Willard to see how he feels about this trail going in. I also have had children coming through my property with paintball guns, axing up my trees, coming after my dogs that are in the backyard. So there would have to be some way to I don't know how you're going to police it. I don't know how you're going to police it. There's no way off unless you're going to walk. I don't know how many. I think it's all in everything that when Jeff told about it in September. Not a good idea.
I think you mentioned about reaching out to Mr. Willard about
Yes, and we hadn't received any feedback at this point from Mr. Willard, but that was something that came out of the last meeting. So.
Niles, were you going to go over the budget?
Just in what, do you want more detail or just?
Well, this is an enormous amount of detail already.
Well, that
Right.
budget was that was '03.
That's 03.
That's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
this is 20 years ago.
part of
I mean-
2 years ago.
the main question for this part of the process is just that $54,000 for the assessment, because part of that assessment will get into the costs of what doing the whole trail would be. So part of the true cost assessment, as I mentioned in my memo to you, is looking at the cost of what it would be. So for this stage of the process, that's all we're talking
Yeah,
about
well,
here.
I guess, yeah, I don't want to, beat the stick, but 3 years ago, it was $600,000.
20 years ago. That's 20 years.
6 years ago.
No, 6 years, yeah.
3
So there are there's also in their information from 2000.
Oh,
So there are
This is not
two,
the first time this has been discussed.
Don,
This
correct,
is our
yeah.
third or fourth time. Yeah.
So in,
what was that number again, please?
Well, I don't have the precise number because
It's actually irrelevant. because
it's an old document.
right.
It was about
So-
half a million in '03.
Yeah.
$565,000.
In 03.
Now, there's
in,
1, 2, 3, 4 alternatives,
there's,
so.
yeah, so just to be clear,
Yeah.
yes, this was from 2000. There was various budgets to do various things. One of the things to mention is that there was a phase 1 and a phase 2 to what was done in 2000. The discussion that we've talked about is basically essentially the same as phase 1 of the Hunter's Run, okay? In 2000, there were budgets for just phase 1 of $380,000, $390,000, and $365,000. But that was all in 2000, okay? So, again, whatever the cost would be, you could imagine that it could be more expensive, but for the purposes of this discussion, that was just the main thing that we'd sketched out.
Good evening. I just wanted to add a couple of comments.
Sorry.
Oh,
Name, address.
yes, Kevin Maroney, and I live in 17909 Hickman Street. And
The Delight is well represented.
yes,
Welcome.
indeed. We're avid trail users in Elizabeth's Delight. So my wife and I, primarily my wife, has probably logged hundreds of thousands of steps among the trails of Poolesville, and never encountered any issues with crime or anything like that on them. They're seem to be very well maintained, and what I wanted to offer was to maybe the homeowners that were concerned about a new trail is that and I'm so glad somebody has come from Stony Springs and offered their experience, but they look beautiful, where the houses back up to the trail. Some of the homeowners have embraced that and actually put in their own entrances or a way to access it. And I can only imagine that these add to the value of not just the homeowner, but also to the town itself. So I just wanted to just show my support for this trail idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Another one.
I don't know if you want us to sign back in. I can give you the details.
Yeah, you can just state your name and address.
Shahram Paksima, 2004 Hickman Way. And I was able to speak briefly last time. I just wanted to mention a couple of additional things. First of all, again, I really do appreciate, especially, and I'm sorry I've forgotten your name, but the earlier comments. I think it is important to recognize and acknowledge this is not a slam dunk on either way, right? There are legitimate issues that all stakeholders have here. And so I think the methodical way and approach and process that was suggested is a pretty wise way maybe to move forward. But second is just to reiterate again that it's not just that there are only costs to doing this, right? There are benefits to doing it, but we should keep in mind that homeowners who are abutting up against that area, they do have the benefit of having what is in essence a private strip there that is owned by the town that others are not getting a benefit from. And I'm not saying that you do it just for that reason, but you can't take some of the testimony that's been given and just say that it's only going to be a cost to them and that they disproportionately bear that, right? There will need to be accommodations made to address the legitimate concerns they have. And so that's part of what would be taken into consideration as part of what the wider feasibility study would incorporate. Third point is that, and I'm as obviously as a strong proponent of putting something in there, my particular preference is probably to put in some kind of, what do you call it, a rustic trail or whatever the official designation is. That's my personal preference, but I don't think that my opinion just at this point in time should be preeminent. I don't think anyone is saying we should put in just a paved trail, or I would like to think that we can be a bit more open about it and see what would the feasibility say about these different options. And especially if we're looking at just the cost factor, okay, again, very legitimate issue, but a couple things come to mind. We have town resources that we decide how we put to the things that are important for us as a community. We're not the same community that we were 25, 30 years ago. Frankly, we're not even the same community we were 10 years ago when I and my family and I were lucky enough to move into town. A lot of the quality of life issues that are there right now a lot of the issues in town right now are about what is the quality of life that we want for the next 25 years. Not what was life like 25 years ago and can we sustain that for the future. That's just not a reality, right? So it's a lot of things about how can we make our community more walkable, more accessible. If you think that we've got problems now with, certain areas around town and what our quote unquote teenagers are doing and getting into trouble, let's provide them with some opportunities in some areas to have active lifestyles, to do the kinds of things that are going to improve their health, to include their mental health in particular, let alone the mental health benefits for other, adults in the community as well. And again, just to make another small last point, if we're thinking about the issues of cost and everything, does anyone in here, and Nigel, you can't answer this one, but does anyone know what it costs or what the town commission just approved last night for one single new bathroom to go in?
Jeff, come on.
Or Jeff, yeah, you're, okay, now you guys can say. Now, what was it? It's about $275,000? Okay, $275,000. Now, I think that's a legitimate cost, okay? But my point is that there's some sense of scale to these things. And if we as part of the feasibility study, let's see what those different cost estimates are for the different types of trails and things like that. And then it's up to the town to give input on, and for the town commission to make a determination if we have the resources and that's enough of a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. No, so I had a question. This concept study, where's the 54,000 coming from? I always thought we were on a budget.
Well, so there are reserves, and we have, so as Wade mentioned last night, we have about $1.8 million of reserves. And so our threshold for, what we'd like to keep as a reserve is about $750,000. So there are reserves, and there are costs already built into the budget for things like park improvements and things like that. So there is money available.
Okay.
Just may add, there was a really relevant question that the gentleman asked, Mr. Pexima, and I have it in my notes, which I didn't, have at my fingertips when he asked.
Is this for the bathroom?
The total project, the total cost for the Helmholtz Park restroom
Can we talk about that at new business?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, jump,
Well,
yeah.
as long as I just said it, so the contract itself is 270,000. The total project is 303,718. That was what was just approved last night, so, sorry
No, it's okay.
to go out of order.
Any more comments? Mr. Pat Gregg.
If it's new.
Hiya. Pat Gregg, 19606 Seymour Court. Just a couple points real quick. I love trails, okay? Terry and I backpacked the Nepali Coast Trail on our honeymoon. We like trails. We had a trail behind our house in Gaithersburg, and the only inconvenience was people seeing what was for dinner that night, you know, looking in. You can't see the trail from our house. It's very, very isolated. Another quick point is that your 54,000 is only looking at what you call phase one?
Correct. So yes, the,
Whether or not we can even do phase one.
Right.
There's environmental concerns we don't even know about.
Right.
So it's just whether or not.
It's a survey of the property.
It's only considering,
Survey.
it's only considering
Concept,
whether you would do
feasibility,
phase one or
usability.
not.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I think the board has to educate the folks in town, especially new folks, about these easements. There's a lot of easements. 20 years ago, the easement went all the way through Hillard and behind the houses on Hillard.
Yes, correct.
The little drawing you guys put out
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago doesn't include that. It shows where basically some Boy Scouts cut a trail through the school property. It doesn't show the easements. It doesn't show the fact that one easement dead ends and there's no connection to other Poolsville property. It doesn't show all the houses, like when you set that out, you sent it to all the houses that are against phase one, apparently. And you didn't send it to the folks who were on the other easements. There are other easements in town that I know of that were thought, okay, we'll put a trail in there, and then the people objected, and they thought, well, no, we can't do that. There's a lot of easements in town that didn't get thought out well before they built the houses. And you have to educate the folks, especially the new folks, about where these easements are, and you can't just nitpick one little section and make a $54,000 study on that, and then you're gonna have another $54,000 on phase two?
So currently there isn't, so I'll just to clarify about the phase two part, so I just want to read, and I just put it over here. So just to clarify about the what would be the phase two part. So this is, note, the town is currently not looking at doing this section of the trail from Cotean Way to Hughes Road, that's the phase two, due to the steep slopes found in this area. So it makes it, there's a physical challenge to actually putting in a trail there.
There's physical challenge on phase one
Right.
also.
Right, I'm just saying that was the assessment made at the beginning of this process for what we were doing. So I just wanted
I see.
to explain the reasoning why.
Okay, thank you,
Okay?
thank you. All right, and one more quick point.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I personally went around and surveyed, had people sign a petition on every house that is adjacent to all of the easements. One house said they wanted to have a trail put in, okay? And that was in phase two, way up on Tom Fox Court, I think, one house. Everybody else said, no, thank you. Just want to put that out there. So I think you folks, especially the board, needs to educate the folks about these easements, where they really are. Don't just send out a little drawing with some Boy Scout trails. And also what the plans are, including all of those. You can't just nitpick and
Right.
take this one little section. Again, I love trails. I'd love to see a trail. This one's stupid.
Any other comments on the trail? Oh,
Correct
Sid,
me if I'm wrong.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything new to
When are you gonna, when do you come back to join us?
Sorry, I was late. Jeff McIntyre, 19607 Seymour Court. Yeah, go ahead.
Doug.
When, yeah.
So I want everybody to remember, you talked about other people and so forth and so on. Each likelihood that each one of you had the opportunity to tour your potential property and house before you bought them would have been able to see that on each one of these plats, there's a line or a marker or whatever where
The easement is?
An easement, yes, yes.
Where the property line is?
Yeah. So,
30 years ago, it was solid wood.
But it was part of the master plan. The fact that the trail was supposed to go back there,
I don't think it was 30 years ago.
it was part of the master plan on paper, correct, Niles?
Yeah, so just to clarify one thing, just talking about these easements, since we're talking about it, part of this, the study and the concept would be doing survey work on the trail to determine where it could be in those easements. So part of the process would be to more clearly define those questions.
What
So
was
just
the
as a part
trail
of that as well.
concept on the master plan when it was built? How long has it been on the master plan?
At least, trying to think exactly
Like
when it was.
when Hunter's Run actually got
So when,
constructed?
right, so when Hunter's Run was developed, these easements were put on at that time. That was
For
part
the
of.
purpose of a trail.
Yes. Mhm.
And that was added to the master plan at the time.
That's my understanding. I don't, you know.
I think it was a result of the contractor's obligation to provide the community with parks.
Yeah.
for their-
Yes. So it's on the plats that were
Okay, that's-
put in
uh,
for
just-
development.
Hi, just two comments.
Name and address, please, sir.
I did, but I'll do it again. Jeff McIntyre, 19607 Seymour Court. Just wanted to point out, this is only 25 feet. It's not going to be a trail that's going to meander and be like a really nice thing like you'd see up at Sugarloaf or something like that. Just point that out. And then just a rebuttal to the comment that only 20 people get to enjoy this area. We don't enjoy it. We don't go back there. I mean, yes, I do because I bow hunt, but we don't go back there. The 20 families that have those properties, it's all natural. It hasn't been touched. It's animals' habitat back there. The animals love it. We don't go back there and just hang out and enjoy nature. Just wanted to point that out. That's about all I got. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff, do you mind turning the mic off?
Sure, yeah.
All right. One more comment? Please, come on.
Thank you. I would have never figured out how that works.
Just like
Hi, my name is Sue Ann Roberts. I'm a resident at 18213 McKernan Way in Tama on the very north side of our kind of town lines. I am, at heart, always going to be a proponent of beneficial public goods that promote sustainable, healthy community living. And I think that trails are a pretty easy answer to that. That is why when you look at just about every successfully planned community across this country, trails are a crucial and critical part to that planning. And yes, I agree that we need to be smart about how we approach these things. I do strategy for a living, and so a lot of the points that were brought up as concerns that we should be looking at through a feasibility study, I agree with. Safety certainly is a concern. I live off the back of my neighborhood is a farm, and we have, I want to say, less than 25 feet between the back of my yard and the next property. And so I'm very, very familiar with the sounds of hunters they sound like they're another 5 feet away from that. You should have seen the look on my face when I first moved here and from DC and was like, what is going on? And yes, I think that, safety concerns should be addressed, but let's not confuse fear with safety. I think that, I feel for people who have moved to places where they've come, they've come and established a home, and they want, peace and for themselves and for their kids, and they find themselves in a different situation than what was expected. But I don't think that we should allow those negative experiences to prohibit us from moving forward in the future. If we know better, we can do better, and we can't know better without a current feasibility study that addresses, these types of concerns. What were the questions that were asked when whoever was sitting in your seats or whoever lived here at the time moved forward with the decision to put trails within our community, to put this beneficial, public good within our community, and what was missed then? Where is the gap between the decisions that were made, the data or information that was collected and looked at, and how things were executed? I think that is a very important question to answer before we can say yes to trails or no to trails. I'm not sure that anyone would say no to something that would turn out to be, truly a beneficial public good for sustainable, healthy community living. It's really hard to argue against something that promotes physical health and mental health and emotional health, particularly when we are so very isolated from things that are more accessible to communities, down the road from us, 15 minutes away. Someone had mentioned, we have these things 15 minutes away, and it's interesting to me to hear it talked about as if that is an inherent benefit to us within our own insular community, when that same argument is made when it comes to grocery stores, but it's 15 minutes away. When it comes to access to health clinics, but they're 15 minutes away. So I think that, if we're going to talk about things that people from our community can access, we have to decide what is a priority and what is not a priority, and these are the types of things that a feasibility study answers. I have a different perspective on safety. I'm the mom of two 8th graders, two 8th grade boys. So we are in that in-between period before they have achieved their, independence and have their driver's licenses, although being the mom of two 13-year-olds, we'll see if we get there. But I can say that, from the time that they are starting to want their independence and that connection, that social connection to their community, which we all know is so very important for health, mental and emotional health, getting them out there, so that they can get that physical exercise themselves, meet up with their friends. These trails around town have, been huge. And being where I am situated in, like I said, Tama 2, on, the north side of our town boundaries, I have witnessed over the past, 3 years, and certainly the pandemic had played a big role in this, an explosion of use of our trails. Because the end of the trail that connects our neighborhood, which before Brightwell Reserve was built, was the only trail that connected our neighborhood to the entire rest of the town. We've seen an explosion of pedestrians and bike users and, moms with strollers use those trails, and, including not, when in early morning or in the later evening. And I think that everybody who uses it, probably has a different perspective on safety. It's not my place to determine for any other individual what feels safe to them or what does not feel safe to them. But we can get a better idea of what, the variance in those perspectives are, or how people define safety and how we can address those concerns if we do a feasibility study. I also think, and this is my strategy brain speaking, that studies that are done well are not only beneficial to the question or questions specifically that are being added, but should be used, kind of across the board. So as we're going through, and we'll have to continue to go through the plan of revisiting, or the process of revisiting master plans or whatever other requirements are put in front of us by the county or the state, let's think about using this as a tool to utilize for, future development, future whatever comes across. But to not do it would mean that our reliance on now over 2-decade-old documents, then that age gap just keeps growing, and we're not any more informed, and so we're not making better decisions. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the Hunters Run Trail? Okay, now what's next? Any questions? You guys have any questions?
No, I don't think I.
Okay. Can Jeff join us back here or no?
So once he's done with this item, so since he's recused himself for this, it's
Okay.
through the vote, if there is a
Yeah.
vote,
Yeah.
in that way.
So here are my thoughts on it.
All right.
I think both sides have a good argument for or against the trail. I have a particular issue. To me, the town should have put this trail in when the development was built. And to go back and try to shoehorn that in there at this time, I don't think that should be done. I do think that trails, we should look at, particularly rustic trails, in all the new developments that we have coming up, just like we've done for each development that we've going forward. So I feel like that was a bit of whoever was in charge during that period that was being built, we didn't hold the developer to what they should have done. And so to go back 20, 30 years and say, hey, let's go ahead and put a trail in there, I don't necessarily know if that's the right thing. The cost to me is not even an issue, right? Like I feel like we can do a feasibility study all we want. I just think, I'm thinking, is it the right thing to do? Is how I'm looking at it. And so I think going forward, just like we've done in the new developments, Brightwell, Tama, we've got great trails, and they were all part of the plan. And we held the developers to the design and said, hey, yeah, you can build here, but you also have to put this trail in, and we were able to dictate that at the town level. And so going forward, like the new development that the Jamesons are planning across from Westerly Grove, or whatever we're calling that, right? That'd be a good place to think about something like this, because we know we've gone back to them for extra green space. We can talk about putting that, sort of a rustic trail on the back side of that. I mean, I think we can come up with a solution that helps or kind of meets both needs here, right? Both sides of the argument. And then I think we need to go back to the master plan and make a recommendation that, hey, we need to fix this so we're not having this argument 20 years down the road, right? And say, we need to adjust the master plan so this trail just doesn't exist. And then think about, what is the purpose of us holding that land as a town? If we can sell it to the Jamesons, or not to the Willards, or is it worth, approaching them about it? Why are we holding that land this long and it hasn't served a purpose? Does that make sense? That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, there are trails already in the plan for when this property is developed as well.
Over here next door?
Yeah, the fish pool project, right? So that's already
Right.
embedded in the project plan.
Yeah, but I think the idea of a rustic trail.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, the sidewalk trails are great, or the asphalt trails are great. And I have seen explosion of people using them, and they're people all through town, so it's great. But I think the idea of having a rustic trail is something that we can start to incorporate. I don't know if this is the place for it, but out off of West Willard there, I think.
Yeah, no, that's more like sightlines and vistas. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
tot lot for.
But there'll be trees and stuff. Like we have a ton of tot lots.
Yeah.
We don't have much rustic trails. So, when we were talking about green space over there, even as a board, we were like, well, what are we going to do with that green space? Well, I think that would even help them, because they say, okay, we can actually build a house where we're going to have a tot lot, but then we have this area back here that's all going to be for a rustic trail.
Yeah, you should be aware of the fact that you're gonna have different, you're still gonna have to come up, the contractor's still gonna have to come up with the same percentage of land that he was
Correct.
giving to us. And with however you piece
5%.
it up or throw it up or whatever.
Right.
That should have been included in that.
Absolutely.
So question to you, Niles. So are we at the moment to either vote up or down on the $54,000 feasibility study?
So that was what the commissioners asked for this body to come up with a recommendation for. If you feel comfortable doing that tonight, that is your prerogative as the board. If you want to do something, if you want to get more information or anything else you'd like to do, that is your prerogative. But the request from the commissioners was to make a recommendation.
Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily one to kick the can down the road. I think we should make up our mind on something. The thing is that I'm really of two minds, as if that's even a thing, because I don't want to waste $54,000. At the other hand, Ms. Roberts brought up excellent, and all the speakers did. We really won't know all the things we don't know unless we do the feasibility study.
Make a recommendation that this town, or this board, thank you, submit a request to the commissioners to run a viability test, or feasibility test, excuse me, with respect to the issues we're looking at right now.
So are you asking for like a community survey? I'm not
No,
clear.
he's put in a motion that,
Put a motion on the floor, how we take the next step, which is by paying for the feasibility studies, how will we do next?
I have a question. Can you define?
can you come up here, please? No? Then we can't hear you.
Wait, please. I'm not trying to be hard, we're just trying to.
Yes, you are.
People on YouTube can't hear us. People on YouTube can't hear us.
Can
That's
you
right.
define for us, I'm Bonnie Bowie, 6 Hoskinson Court, can you define for us, you say feasibility study, but nobody's given us an idea of what a feasibility study involves.
Niles, could you speak to that, please?
Certain.
Okay.
So included
Are you gonna be
in.
walking into my yard?
So there would be, part of the study would include surveying the trail. So it would be surveying the length of
Are you
it.
going to be walking through my yard?
We would, depending on how we would go through it, we might have to, but it's
Why?
also to, yeah, but probably just through,
It would be within the easement.
within the easement limits. So probably going down from Bodmer, going back down where the trail would go, and they would survey that line.
Well, if you could just let us know what you mean by feasibility, I have no
So
idea.
let me just
No,
address
that's a
that
good
in a
question.
couple of different ways. So part of it is, as we just talked about there, surveying, the properties. Another part of it would be doing a forest stand delineation and a natural resource inventory. So those things are related to looking at information on the geology, the soils, the streams, wetlands, and forests. And so it would be looking at that. So that sort of goes to that environmental question that was brought up. So part of the study would involve doing the work necessary to understand those risks. And then, other related questions about sort of where there might be needs for culverts or bridges or things like that. Looking at the best placement for that, the line of the trail, so all of those things. So it would be looking at.
And only on phase one, correct?
Correct. This is just that section as outlined.
$4,000 for 3/4 of a mile.
For,
Yeah.
in that range, yep. So, just putting a little bit more detail on that, so.
I don't know if it's a possibility or not, but virtually I was trying to take notes as quickly as I could. And I think virtually every one of the speakers mentioned safety is as a concern, but that's not part of the feasibility study, is it?
Would be probably, right?
Well,
John?
I think,
Negative.
No, this is
For
more of
engineers,
a builder.
right?
Yeah.
Design, look at what the environmental impacts are gonna be, which are,
John, just go up.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Mr. Strong measures things.
John Strong, town engineer, Clark Azar. So the site has to be surveyed because we don't have where the boundaries are. And within that, we have to do a forest conservation study. Within that, we also have to do an environmental study to find out what environmental impacts are there through an NRI FSD. Then once that takes place, then we can determine what permitting is going to have to go through. We don't know what those conditions are, so we can't answer what those permit conditions are going to be. And also, what requirements the state and the county and the town are going to have for putting in, most likely, back in the day, we could throw down culvert pipes. when that study was done. Can't do that anymore. We have to put in boardwalks. We have to put in helical piers for these things. There's a whole host of things that we have to go through. We probably will have to get something from the Corps of Engineers, I would imagine, but I don't know for sure. And until we do all these studies to determine what conditions are on the property and what exists on the property, we can't answer anything more than, is it possible? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. It would be part of it, and it depends on the type of trail, because if it's a rustic trail, the ADA requirements are much, much different than they are if it's a concrete paved trail. They changed the conditions of the trail and the type of trail that's placed in have different dictates to what the ADA requirements would be. I've heard people say, well, we want a rustic trail with trash barrels. Well, that presents a problem for this guy over here to go ahead and service. So that it would be part of that process. Now, as far as the safety aspect of it, we're engineers. We're not the guys who would do a safety survey of the trail. As far as criminal activity, now for movement of persons up and down a trail, of course we'd incorporate that and we'd look at that. But those are different conditions. But criminal activity, that's not what we do.
Is there any thought or possibility we could ask Commander Hattenberg from District 2 to?
So we
Give
can
us some
certainly we can have a discussion with them and see what they would want to say. I don't think there's a problem with that, and see what their response would be.
I don't know, maybe they have some experience with trails that are isolated, and they could say, no, this is a great idea, this is not a great idea, before we spend $54,000.
Certainly.
Just out of comment, just out of, on the side, that's the police chief for, that spoke on Monday, right?
District 2 Commander.
Yeah, Commander.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, a lot of you, if you've been involved with the police and stuff here, we are a very quiet area that sees very little crime. And because of that, we receive very little support. And he made note of that last night, and so did his two other officers. He had two officers with him, didn't he? Now, if you want to listen to it and his response, and when he has, listen to the YouTube replay. Thank you. It's all there. It's all, but there's a lot more to this thing.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not necessarily in favor of kicking the can down the road. I'm not in favor of that at all. I'm not in favor of abdicating our position to somebody else, like the commissioners, even though I am a commissioner and I see Sarah's. Sarah here somewhere? Yeah, there's, yeah. But I would like, because almost every person cited safety, either as a plus or a minus, so I would like to get an expert opinion on, if we show them the route,
We can
maybe walk the property somehow, and have the person give us whatever opinion they can give us. And then we can decide to spend $54,000 on a feasibility study, which might go nowhere, or it might end up going somewhere.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable?
Do you want to add something to his recommendation then?
No, I don't.
Oh, sorry, so we already have a motion.
Was that a motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
no one seconded
You
it.
didn't make a motion, did you?
No, nobody seconded it.
No, he made a motion.
Oh,
No
made a
one
motion,
seconded. We're in
nobody seconded
discussion.
it, so.
I didn't hear the word motion, I'm sorry.
Okay, so if the motion wasn't seconded, it dies,
All right,
correct?
repeat it.
Doug,
Hold on.
Doug made a recommendation to make a motion to commissioners to run a feasibility test for the issues we are looking at right now.
So Doug, were you saying?
But it has not been, that was a motion.
That was his
Has
motion,
not
hasn't been
been
seconded yet.
Okay.
It's in discussion right now.
Yeah.
Do you want to add that to it?
No.
Okay,
I second the motion.
all right.
Okay.
We have a second by Gail.
Well,
Any more?
Does this have anything to do with the vote? Okay.
I don't know if, yeah, just, could we clarify based on what you're mentioning a second ago, Pat? Is there, sorry.
It's okay. All right.
Well, I've been on the other side where you can't hear
You can't hear anything when you're doing your best to participate through YouTube, and you can't hear what's being said. Is there any other section in the town still left where there's 3/4 of a mile to a mile?
Many
Where there would be able to be another type of rustic trail or any other kind of trail put in? On
Yes,
undeveloped-
there are other sections.
Undeveloped, contiguous?
Yes.
And that are as potentially have as much nature left to them, or would they be more like going through, neighborhoods?
So there
and that
are
type of-
areas that do not have currently any,
Tama 1 and Tama 2.
Tama 2,
And
yeah.
then cattail all the way over to.
Yeah, so there is areas where it is currently all natural there, and so therefore could be developed in a similar manner. And that was also on the trail map
And
in
this
the
is just
master
to,
plan.
it truly is a point of clarification for me. So would it be that easy then? Because you're saying that now all of the requirements that are in place, you can just require that of any developer who would be coming in.
Well, this is all town-owned land now. We're talking
Yeah,
about
but
the
that's
other
my
rails.
point.
Well, no, I mean, it's
Oh,
a question.
so what I was
so it's not the
mentioning.
same.
Well, what I was mentioning is the new developments.
Right.
But you're bringing up a separate point.
You said
But-
other
but-
areas, right, in town.
Yeah,
But I
but what I'm
think-
saying is that you could just as easily put in a contiguous section of 3/4 of a mile to 1 mile for a trail.
Town-owned land, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. in
No. Okay, so I mentioned when I was talking that we can make sure that when new developments go online, we can look to put trails like this in. But what I
Right.
think you're getting at, Mr. Paxton, is that we could actually look at some of these other areas that already exist that don't back up to this area here, within, like, between
I'm a
Tama 1
bit
and Tama 2.
confused, sorry. I'm not
No.
sure, yeah.
Because we already own other easements, right? So the reason why we have the trails that we have through Elizabeth's Delight, through Tama, through Brightwell, through Stony Springs, is because the town, when the developers came to the town and said, this is what we want to do, we were able to provide input and say, well, we want trails, we want this and that, right? That was part of our master plan is this trail system. So what I was saying is going forward, we definitely need to look at, say, hey, can we maybe add some rustic trails in some of these other developments that are going in? But I think you just hit on something that, there's other areas in town that we own easements. The town has easements where we can look to put a trail like this in here now versus waiting for the developer to come online, right? Because they're still in the process of, I think, is that,
So-
Okay,
did
yeah.
that clarify
I
that?
guess, my larger point is, I think, my understanding is, which could be incorrect, right? But that we have increasingly less and less spaces to be able to work with. What I'm trying to just make sure I understand better is, do we have any other areas where we can reasonably expect that there are going to be contiguous enough areas where you can get a trail, 3/4 of a mile doesn't sound like a super long section, but
Yeah.
in a town like ours, that covers quite a bit of ground in the town that we're in. And that actually
And-
connects up
Let me-
different places that have not been connected before.
Let me interrupt you, and I apologize.
Please, yeah.
but it's
No,
a
that's fine.
function of just everything.
No, I think this is an important, in the spirit of
Right now, you are
communication.
talking about hypotheticals.
But-
And there,
but I think
But he
we
brings
may
up a
have a
good
solution
point.
It's
here.
not
guys.
I know it is a good point, but if he wants to come and, each development that is okayed by that goes
Yeah, but
through
I
this sort
thi-
of review,
Yeah.
if not more.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is the wrong time to be bringing up that subject, because
I
we're
don't-
not talking about.
I'm
I
not even
brought it
sure
up.
that, I'm not even
I
sure
brought it
that
up.
I'm bringing up what you think I'm bringing up.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna sit back down.
so I brought up saying, hey, we should probably
Going
look,
forward.
going forward.
No,
if
I understood that, which is why.
I think you should, I think we're having a good back and forth here, Mr. Paxton. Because what I'm saying is, going forward, as a board, as a town, we need to do a better job of making sure that we're holding the developers to what they agreed to, which did not happen in Hunter's Run with this trail, right?
25, 30 years ago.
Yes.
35 years ago,
25.
or 25, however long it was.
Before me on the board.
30 years ago. 30 years ago. Okay. So what I'm saying is that new development over by across from Bricken, whatever. We could look to maybe add a rustic trail there too. But to your point, which I didn't really even think about, was we do have other easements and other properties that don't back up to other homes where we wouldn't have this issue. That we can identify those and maybe potentially look to do a study there so that, you know, we're not running into any of these issues. Does that am I making sense?
Yeah, that was my point about you guys need to educate the people, especially the new people.
Thank you very much. Great point.
No, we got a motion on the floor. It either needs.
Do you want to make a quick comment? Please.
You're still in discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're still.
No, I know. We're
But
still
I think
discussing.
it's part of the
Can-
discussion, yeah.
Just to clarify what we were talking about before.
Yeah, we're up in here.
Yeah, and we're going to try to get it up on the screen in front of you so you guys can see. This is the map of the trail system, okay? And what it includes is, it's hard to see from here, and we'll post this. This will be also part of the upcoming master plan and so forth. But what I'm going to just highlight here, just for the point of discussion, is that the area sort of above town where, this is what Tim and I had discussed, where you sort of see that orange line, see if you can do up there. That's another section that has easements and has the nature and sort of natural environment that could end up having a trail in it as well. Now, that's not the discussion for right now, but that is part of the overall idea of the trail system as a whole.
And we were talking about that before COVID.
Right, yes. This was a discussion a while ago. So that's just the sense of where all of these different easements and where they are now. Where the trails are now, where the existing trails are, and proposed
We got a
trails.
call a question here.
Yeah.
Well, any more discussion, guys? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have?
And I actually think we need to amend the motion
What
or withdraw it, because I think we have a different solution here.
Would you like to make?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Just a real quick point of clarification. I can appreciate the comments that have been made that now the town is doing better, that when new developments happen, they're holding the developers accountable for including these assets that we want. And that's great. But I just want to make sure I'm understanding that what we're saying is there was a master plan 30 years ago that included easements that were planned to be a trail. And because people who came before us failed to hold them accountable, we're now just going to abandon that concept. And I don't think that's right. If the easements were there for a purpose and they are still there, then I think we owe it to people who are here today to do that assessment and turn them into what they were envisioned to be.
But what if we can do that assessment somewhere else, still accomplish having a trail that is not going to disturb residents? But through no fault of their own, the developers didn't put a trail in, and the town didn't make them put a trail in. You see what I'm saying? So if we identify a different easement that the town owns, and we can do a trail there, would people that are for a trail be
I think that we
interested in
do
that?
both. I think that we do both.
I mean,
Or we could offer those, the easement back and let people purchase that back for private property.
that's my point. Well, right now, what we're doing, I think, is by shoehorning it in after the fact, it's not fair to the because it would be the same thing if people were doing it in different neighborhoods too. In my personal opinion.
There are legitimate concerns for safety. Put a fence in there, that's fine, just
Well, but why should one homeowner be required, or if they needed to have a fence, not another?
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm not going to bang this thing.
Ambulance in there with a fence.
Mr. Bowie, do you have a comment?
Hello, Jim Bowie, 6 Hoskinson Court. I think something that hasn't been brought up, and it was brought up in the last month's meeting, and a very important issue for me, as being a member of the Isaac Walton League and a very concerned citizen about our wildlife and our environment, This trail is going through a designated wetlands. Has anybody looked at that other map that can go right over top of that trail plan? There's wetlands there. I mean, I live right there. I see the stream. I see the water that comes down from the Willards farm. It's just, I don't understand why somebody hasn't done something to bring this into the equation.
I think that we did, and that's what John was trying to allude to earlier, is that
Yeah.
we used to be able to just put a culvert down. If it's a wetland now, it's gonna
Exactly.
require I mean, the price tag is gonna be,
Well over $1 million, probably.
it's gonna be astronomical.
Yeah, it's,
So-
anyway.
And I think that's what John was trying to allude to, the fact that we know it's a wetland.
Yeah.
And he knows it's a
Yeah,
wetland,
just
so.
traversing just the woods behind the house.
Yeah.
It's the hills.
It's gonna
the
have to be like
obstacles are gonna be
raised.
All right. we have a-
Astronomical price. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. You want to withdraw the motion, or you want
I'll withdraw the motion so that I can see what you wanted to propose.
to, all right.
I think it makes more sense to have a conversation about where else we can put a trail like this, because I don't think this is the appropriate place.
But they want an answer for the Hunter's Run trail.
They don't have, the commissioners don't need to have we
Well,
can,
What have we recommended? We recommend, and they can do whatever they want with it.
no, because we can have a committee, have a citizens committee, and we can decide, hey, let's table the Hunter's Run thing, we want to look at this area here.
Okay, clarification now?
So again, I mean, you can provide whatever recommendation you, the
Right.
Parks Board, want. You can say, your recommendation could be to explore other options or to say something like that. The only question that the commissioners asked of you guys was to make a recommendation. So whatever that recommendation is your.
To make a recommendation or not make a recommendation, we don't have to
Right.
make a recommendation.
I would like to, I'm going to make a motion that before we do the feasibility study, before we spend $54,000 on a feasibility study, which might be useless, we talk with Montgomery County Police, so we get some input from them on their experience with similar isolated trails. And if they say, great idea, then, because that's not part of the motion, but we get their input and then we decide to go forward with the feasibility study or not.
Can I?
Why would it be useless? I don't understand.
And say that we look at other alternatives of land.
Well, I think that's a completely separate thing, and I'm certainly all in favor of that, too. Yeah.
Separate two motions?
Yes. So you clear about that,
I
Niles?
second that motion.
All right.
You're seconding his motion.
Repeat the motion, please.
Before we make a recommendation, we look to.
Yeah, we get input on safety from the Montgomery County Police on similar isolated trails.
Okay. You second that? All right. You got it?
No, I second.
You second, yeah. I know. You're gonna run out of battery. All right, so the motion is,
I mean, I'd like to include that maybe we talk about all of the easement and like, maybe this is a whole
I
separate
asked him to amend
conversation.
that, and he said just make a second motion.
Really?
Well, the reason I.
No, that's a good point, because the reason I said that was, I don't think we're gonna have Montgomery County Police study our whole potential trail map, and they're gonna give us input.
I think the first step is, let's take a look at all of the trails, the easements, the ones that were left behind 30 years ago,
Well,
the ones that are proposed for 10 years from now, and really see what we think makes sense, that's not gonna impact the whole.
For a rustic trail.
For rustic trails, and then talk to Montgomery County Police and have them look at the ones that we think would be, like, why are we gonna have them look at this .25 spot when we can have them look at what we maybe would be recommending?
I think that's a more comprehensive motion.
Okay, as long as we get Montgomery County to do that, right? I don't know if they're in the business of
all
doing
right,
that.
can you,
Well, that can be your recommendation, so if you want to make that motion,
What did I say?
Okay, so I withdraw mine and Gail can make hers.
so,
I don't know what I said.
all right, you withdraw your motion.
yeah.
We should form a subcommittee and look at other trails, basically,
That's what I'm saying.
and not kill the Hunter's Run trail yet. Go ahead. Me too. We all are. Come on up here, join us.
I'm a little confused with regards to the whole safety aspect of this. If Montgomery County Police deemed Poolsville as a very safe area, we don't get the officers coming to patrol, etc., why would there suddenly be a safety issue with a trail? I would think that with hunters in that wild area, safety would be an even greater issue. But I don't live there, so I don't know.
Injury too, right? Like, how do we get emergency vehicles back there?
Yeah,
if
how do you
somebody-
get an EMS
Yeah, oh,
back there?
And I was taking notes.
They can't. If you walk back there, you can't drive back there. It's impossible to drive back there.
We walked it 20-something years ago, and it was,
I'd like to invite these folks over to see the trail personally.
walk the trail path?
You're happy to do so. That's.
All right, so, I'm sorry, wait, we got a point of order. We got a motion on the, which?
a secondary committee,
Okay.
don't you?
All right, so right now, we're gonna,
I think we can make it happen, I just don't think it should be there, that's my opinion, so I'd love your motion.
I'm not anti it there, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, like, if we're looking at all of them, then
That's what I.
Does anybody talk to Willard? Like, does he know to keep his hunters off the property?
well, that's not an issue here. I'm sorry.
Has somebody come out and look at the property?
He doesn't want trespassers, I know that.
That's private property. Come on.
When did we finish the town review, the
Master plan?
master plan?
It is currently still under review, so it will
Still
be,
under review.
yes. Mhm.
Okay, so there's your out.
No.
Because that
Couple
hasn't
months.
been, no, there's your out. That's how you get the thing moving forward. Because you still have an open,
master plan.
master plan.
So we can
You
add.
can add stuff
if
to it,
we
take stuff out,
identify
you
an area, we
can
have that
do
as
this,
well.
what we're talking about.
And then we can pay, and then we can.
Well, the new master plan is almost complete, the first
Well,
draft.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Then we have time.
Yeah, we got time, but not a lot.
So
What was your motion?
we are not gonna make them,
I don't know.
I think we should form another subcommittee to look at other trails, but that kicks the can down the road about the Hunters Run right now.
However, it wouldn't be making a hasty decision
Right.
just to make a decision.
Yeah, because I do think we should, whether we vote it up or down, we need to say, well, one way or the other, if we're taking this out of the master plan or it's in the master plan, because it needs to not be a.
Well, that would go back to the planning commission to do that, yeah.
Exactly, but we can make that recommendation once we
All right.
identify the areas.
Yeah.
If even in other areas you might.
All right, so is there a motion here?
Do we use,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. We don't have one.
If you're gonna make a motion, would you turn the mic on so we can hear it?
Or just
No, I'm
We're
talking-
discussing amongst the board.
Talking aloud.
All right.
So what do we want to do? We want a subcommittee?
I make a motion
For other,
that we form a subcommittee
okay,
to evaluate other easements that the town owns for the possibility of a rustic trail, and that we get the input from fire and EMS and police on whether or not it's a safety issue
for Hunters Run.
for whatever one that we identify,
Okay,
right? And it could be Hunter's Run, it could be multiple. It could be Hunter's Run, it could be this area, it could be that area. We want to look at all of them and then pick the best one.
a subcommittee to investigate other trails, areas.
Other potential rustic trails.
Can't read my writing, sorry. Oh, alternative.
And
Yeah, Jeff.
Can I just address everybody? So 20 years ago when we did this and looked at this trail, come back up, sorry. Just real quick, just point of information. So 20 years ago when this thing was discussed way back when, and it wasn't put in, a subcommittee was formed as well, which also came to the conclusion that anything that went back in there at that behind Hunter's Run was going to be a rustic trail. It wasn't going to be a 5-foot whatever, asphalt whatever, and everybody agreed. But back then the funding wasn't there; it was spent on something else. There was money put aside. And some of those other legs, were added to the maps. And what I'm just saying is that if you guys form a committee, a subcommittee, invite, also have, I'm just saying that's what happened also 20 years ago, is that we had, citizens as well, because we definitely need that input. And I'm just thinking, does that satisfy everybody that we, and then that way we could have this whole discussion about what are alternatives if it makes sense, hunters run thing may make sense after this committee sits down and we have a logical discussion instead of everybody back and forth. You know, it's not safe, it is safe, there's hunters there aren't hunters there. I mean, somebody corrected me after our last meeting about, you know, I was saying that, you know, because I am a hunter and, you know, hunters, I say hunters are very safe. But then somebody pointed out to me that if he were hunting in that field and, you know, somebody's walking along the trail and that person walking spooked an animal, whatever animal, deer, fox, coyote, well, the animal's going to walk out into the field. If the hunter's out in the field, the hunter is then shooting towards the trail. That's just, somebody corrected me on that, so I just wanted to. But I'm thinking a committee, the subcommittee, sounds like a great idea.
All right.
That's my only point. Thank you.
All right, so that's the motion.
Get this motion.
We got a whole agenda to get through too.
Yep.
Well, there's a question in the back.
Yeah, I just have a quick.
Two hands went up, okay.
So in listening, I'm hearing the articulation of this motion, and it's being expressed by some board members as exploration of all the easements for the possibility of trails. And then we have a board member who keeps consistently narrowing it down to rustic trails, even after the point was made that that makes maintenance for our town a bit more challenging. So while we're in the point of doing kind of something that's more exploratory, why would we narrow it down to a specific type of trail? That's my legit question.
So I think to answer your question, because I'm the guy that keeps saying rustic trail, because that's what the folks that are for the trail were talking about. When we had this meeting last week, the majority of the folks that were talking are looking for something rustic, not a 5-foot asphalt path.
But looking at all trails would not exclude rustic trails, right? So as long as the effort is being made, why would we narrow it down? If you're doing something exploratory, why would you narrow it down?
Fine point.
We're not, are we?
Yeah, I mean, we can add any type of trails if we want. That'd be up to the subcommittee. Good point. So I make a motion that we form a subcommittee.
You made a motion. Would you like to?
All right, would you read the motion back?
Pat makes a motion for a subcommittee to check other easements that the town owns for future rustic trails, for future trails, amend to trails. Could be more than one trail that we are exploring. And fire and then we would include fire and safety in the conversation.
That's the motion. Okay. I'll second that. How's that? Unless there's discussion, I'm sorry. All right. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any nays? All right, it's
Unanimous.
then. Okay.
Tim, Terry, you on there?
No, he has not
He's
joined
not on.
yet.
Terry
So-
wasn't on
So,
there.
yeah, so we'll be the,
And Jeff doesn't vote, right? You can come back
correct.
up here now.
So,
Come on, Jeff, we got a meeting yet too.
Hey, and Niles, just a point of, could
just
we,
point of clarification on the vote, just to be clear, it will just be that there would be two non-voting, basically, for it. So it's all of you, and then the two people who would not be voting, so.
yeah.
Okay.
And then can we put it on the town Facebook page or whoever would be interested
So-
in joining a subcommittee?
Yeah, so technically.
I'm happy to be on that, by the way.
Right.
You have to form the committee first.
So
then
the forming of the committee, because this was just to sort of clarify as well, since it was originally the commissioners, I think the next step would be, who had asked for this, I think the next step would be to have the commissioners report back to the commissioners that this is what you would like to do. And then they can send out the call for a subcommittee.
A lot of you made really valid points for,
Thank you very much.
against. The committee could use your voice, not just for this little .25, but for the community at large, for 20 years ago, for the future. So, I mean, everybody's passionate about it. We all like the outside, we all like trees, we all like, to get our mental health in gear and get our physical health in gear. So it's an opportunity for you to continue the conversation about the future of the community. So I encourage, when the call does come, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into everybody's conversation. And my fingers are tired, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Want to do a quick recess?
Yes.
I don't think we need a recess. do we?
No.
I need to go to the
Oh,
bathroom.
okay.
so-
Recess. 5-minute recess. Okay, thanks. 5-minute recess, guys.
Gavel, don't you bang the gavel for that?
We're back.
We're back? Okay.
We're back. We're at stop sign recommendation for the intersection of Butler Road and Bodmer Avenue. Niles.
Yep, so I'm just going to do a quick update. So as I mentioned last time, there's a request made by a resident to install a three-way stop at the corner of Butler and Bodmore due to the increased traffic with Westerly Grove coming online and the lack of sidewalks in the old part of Bodmer. So staff looked at it and reviewed it and made a recommendation to add a stop, to make that a three-way stop. At the September meeting, the board members requested that staff reach out to Montgomery County to perform a speed study of Bodmer Avenue to determine if speed bumps are necessary per the speed bump policy. We've reached out to the county, but they have not heard back from them on that. I think there's a few things that they're using those trailers for right now. So basically, this was partially an update, and the question then remains, do you want to go ahead with the stop signs, or do you want to still wait for this?
We haven't got the speed study back yet.
We haven't yet, so that's...
So we can wait till the study comes back.
That's fine, yep. I was just
All
giving
right,
you an
everyone good
update
with
on
that?
that one.
Yep.
All right.
No need
No,
for
there's no
motion.
need for a motion.
We're just waiting. We're just waiting. She's like, I want to type them.
Yeah.
She's like, my hands are cramping. I gotta keep moving them.
5-3.
All right.
Street and park naming policy discussion.
All right.
We have 3 names, right?
There's 3 names that were submitted. And so one is, here, I'll just sort of read them off quickly here, and then we'll go from there. So the names that were submitted were Laura C. Jameson, who was employed for a long time with the Montgomery County Board of Education as a secretary. She resided in Dickerson but taught at Poolsville High School. And so the testimony that was submitted by a resident goes through her whole bio. I'll put that, but that's in the packet that you received. So just, that was one that was considered. Second was Kenny Mallow, and all of you are aware of who he is, and so that was submitted. And then the third was, it was a handwritten application for Edward Buford Wayne. Last month, when we discussed this, you had all asked for additional information. Based on the research I've done so far, Mr. Wayne was a commissioner from the 50s to the early 60s. As far as the records show, he served less than the 10 years to fall under that category for the naming policy. So those are the 3 names that were submitted. If you'd like to advance any of those names for approval, or if we want to have
It says
additional.
made
Somebody will write themselves in, or volunteer.
Who made a significant contribution to the town? He would be under that one then.
Yes, I mean, you could, like, I just put it out there
As with
because
Kenny
one
Mallow
of the
being-
policy things is 10 years, so I just wanted to give you that clarification. So.
Okay. So, and then,
So updated names list, okay, we did that then.
Mhm.
So are we voting on anything then?
I think we just add them, right? We don't need
Yeah, if you would like to, you have to vote on whether to add these names to the approved list, because then that goes to the commissioners, so that they can decide whether to add them to the list.
So does anybody have an issue or problem, or is everybody happy with, if we were,
take them one at a time.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't necessarily recognize any
I mean,
of them.
Kenny Mallow
Well,
recently
Kenny,
passed. I mean, and Lord Jameson's been a fixture of this area for a really long
And
time.
Mr. Wynn was a prior commissioner. I mean,
Prior commissioner. He didn't serve the quote unquote 10 years, but I think we can probably use the
Significant
contribution to town. He built a house on North Road there. Like, he's pretty, you know. I mean, I don't know if we could do like a deep dive research on his past was there, but I'm.
Well,
I say I make a motion that we accept all 3 names to the.
There's 4, isn't there? Is there 4?
No.
3.
There's 3.
3.
Paper, there's 3, I was looking for a 4th one too, you may be thinking the same thing I am, Jeff.
I think the way that
Right,
yeah.
sorry, yes, there is one, and I forgot to add it, not just from the general public, but back when, I need to pull that stuff up, and I'll get that to you next time, for Ruth Fisher, who was for the Bricken property, who was the owner of that property previously and was also a longtime teacher at Poolsville High School. And so that one is where the Jamesons did provide me with
Last name?
information. Fisher, Ruth
Can't do it, you
Fisher.
have Fisher already.
Right, well, you
County
could
will say
do,
no.
you could do Ruth, you could do.
It's confusing.
Right.
Fire.
Yeah.
Ruth? Ruth is not.
Fisher.
I know, but we can do Ruth.
Yeah, you
No,
could-
No, you had a problem with Willard before. Anyway, I don't go there.
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
I don't know.
but that's.
Fire County will never agree with two names like that. Too close.
What I'm saying is, we don't say Fisher, we just name it Ruth.
Ruth Road.
Ruth Cul-de-sac.
We could try whether they keep it that.
I think.
Ruth Trail.
Yeah, Ruth Trail.
I call it Baby Ruth.
I hear you, but just run it through.
All right, yeah, we
So,
can add it.
since we don't have the information on the packet on Ruth, although
Yeah.
I think it should be approved, but, I make a motion, we go ahead and add these three names to the,
Okay, and then we'll talk about Ruth later.
Yeah, I'll
we get
provide
to-
it for next
Okay,
month's meeting.
That's fine. So I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nope.
Quick question on the roof one.
Yes.
Didn't, was it Jameson's?
The Jamesons
They-
submitted it, but they didn't submit any documentation at
I'm
that
just thinking
time.
back when he was here,
Yeah.
Mr. Jameson, weren't they thinking that possibly naming that small park? Wasn't that a?
That's also a possibility, but what they had put
I just wanted
on-
to throw that back out
Right.
there that, yeah.
And that might be what ultimately ends up happening if there is a county question or something like that. But at the time, they wanted to make it a street, and that's what's on their preliminary plan at the moment. The street names don't have to be, aren't part of the preliminary plan process. That's not until final plat, so there's still time for that process.
I'm thinking the property that was across from West Willard.
Yes, that's correct.
That's
Yeah.
the same one.
That's the same
Yeah,
one
it's
we're
all the
talking
same
So I
one.
got a
That's
Yeah.
Bricken.
So-
That one's
Yeah.
Bricken, and this is
Okay.
Fishpool.
So
Yeah.
Niles and
thinking-
I
I'm
were
thinking-
talking earlier about this.
The Bricken one, they wanted to
Hoeing
name
Park
after
was
the lady
named
who
after
owned
which
the
Hoeing?
property,
Which
right?
is.
Yeah, I'll have to check that as well.
Which Hoeing? Was the
I think it
father,
was
Ray,
I
right?
think it was a father.
So I think we should put a nomination for Link Hoeing next meeting, or the meeting after it's street.
So
Link did a
the
lot of-
Absolutely.
one thing to just note on that.
Yeah.
Because this came up when Chuck's name was on the list and it was taken off of the approved list, because he currently serves the town as a planning commissioner. Link currently is the chair of the Fair Access Committee.
But is that a,
It is a town,
sanction? I know it's a
Yeah.
committee, but it's
it's a town,
in the charter?
at Monday's meeting, the town commissioners added a member to Fair Access. So under that definition, it's a town committee. So you would be serving the town.
Great, I got you.
Who'd they add?
Nancy Kidd.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
New business, right?
New business, bathroom at Dale Park.
Right. So this is sort of ties into two different things. One, as we alluded to earlier, the commissioners at Monday's meeting, approved the rebuilding of the bathroom at Helmos. But at the same time, there's a previous item where some residents want to add a bathroom at George Deo Park, West Willard Fields, that area, where there currently isn't. When the development was being developed, there was a plan to have a bathroom there. And I sent you guys a picture of the plan with the location of the bathroom. It's the last page of the packet. So what the commissioners requested of you is to make a recommendation as to whether to put in for a future budget item.
Oh, I
a
thought
permanent
I
bathroom.
thought they did approve it.
No, what they approved was the Helmos bathroom.
Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's two different bathroom
I got,
questions at the
I'm
same
tracking,
time.
I'm tracking.
So the Helmets one is the one with the play set and the basketball, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
This is just it's primarily the practice field for.
We've been trying to do Helmholtz for years.
And we have a tot lot now.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually, this was brought up about 10, 15 years ago when the soccer field was kind of put in place and we knew the tot lot was coming. And about moving forward, because there isn't any restroom facilities out there, it's rather isolated out there.
This is up
So
there.
this is not new to us, but now at this point, you know, we're using the same footprint pretty close to what we just used at Elgin, which is about a perfect bathroom for each park.
Not
Easy to
bigger
clean,
than what we
good
have now.
maintenance, you know, and modernized.
Yeah.
And that's a problem over Helmos, It's sectionalized, it's just old, we've had so many issues. So if we do that one, we already have a plan in place and just roll it over to the one over there at Deo Park.
Okay.
The same thing, same footprint, and while we're doing it, we need to start setting some money aside, because we do need a bathroom out there. That's a given. And I'm being serious,
25
before
years.
those houses were built, there was little trees and stuff, you know, you could go to, you know, the little guys, you send them over, the little girls.
But now you got,
But
yeah,
now,
young
there's
ladies
no-
at the park.
There's
Any,
no place that you can send your
Yeah.
people to do their business.
I make a motion that we recommend to the commissioners that they,
Wait a minute, what?
include in.
Yes, exactly. That's what they did. That's what they did. I mean, you know, I kids, it's like, all right.
And I think it's a great idea for town staff.
But we're
during the day
beyond
to be able to use it. Town staff could use it,
What's that?
this bathroom.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Yes,
I-
but that is the furthest point away from our facilities ourselves.
I make a motion that we recommend to the commissioners to include a budget item to start funding the bathroom at Dale Park.
I'll second that.
Like that. There you go.
Any other discussion? Wait, I did have one thing for discussion for that. I would also, but somewhere or because West Willard has always been designated as a practice field.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and when we've always promised and we've always said it's only, we just need to keep in mind 20 years down the road, because we don't run into issues again,
The neighbors.
that, you know, if we were to turn that into a game field, because now we got a, you know, regular parking lot there and all.
Well, the
I
I
parking
think
lot,
there's
top
an
line.
agreement in place, though.
I know, that's what I'm saying, there is an agreement, and we just need to remember, like, when you're gone, when Nels is gone.
Bring
the
that
rest of
forward,
us are
yeah.
gone,
It's always gonna be practice
We
field.
need to document that, make sure we have that.
And that could actually change with if they move or, you know,
Yeah.
things change.
I do know that there's
It was just
agreement.
one neighbor that really pressed that.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, yeah, because I mean, you and I, most of us.
Can we plant
were
trees
here
now?
when that happened.
So I'll check in on that. I'm sure if there's an agreement, it's probably a written agreement that already exists, and because that's how we do things. And so, but I'll check in on that.
Can we plant trees, Preston?
We don't have any handshaking.
But yeah, no, I just don't want to hit issues later, and, yeah.
All right, so let's,
Go ahead, all right, yep.
Call the
Everybody,
vote.
all in favor?
aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, that passes.
You're up,
Anybody got anything got anything to add to new business?
I was gonna bring up forming a committee for future trails, but I think we took care of that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Thanks. That was my thing I was gonna say tonight. Regular trails.
Any type of trail.
Hey,
Yeah.
if a sidewalk is concrete, it's 5 feet as a trail.
But I mean, to be honest, back when that whole discussion took place 20 years ago, that a committee was formed, it had citizens, and it worked very well.
Yeah, it
And
did.
a lot of those extra other lines and trails that are on that map that Niall showed were added, and this discussion was, you know.
I
What
remember.
does work well mean if that trail is on the master plan and has not been created?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, the citizens and everybody had input, I guess, and they came to a.
decided not to do it.
Exactly, and then that group said that anytime in the future, if that trail were to be built, that it should be a rustic trail, because it goes, you know, through a perfect place for a rustic trail, instead of to have a 5 foot or 6 foot asphalt thing going through there.
But I think the result was a good old boys activity way back then. And they didn't get the park, and it just didn't get finished.
Oh, back when, you mean when Hunter's Run was
Yeah,
first
yeah,
developed?
when they first put that park in.
All right, so nobody's got any new business to add? Preston, you're up then, buddy.
What day was rainy?
Yes.
Lots of
and
grass.
I hadn't noticed.
I was out there.
I was too.
Oh, it was cold.
And I'm just in my fall-time powder now. We got a lot of tree work to do. Leaves will be coming down, and just doing final park cleanup.
When do you get the snowplows ready?
Will be this next week, and that's being
Wow,
serious.
that's
We-
and
We
salt,
get,
too.
we do it now, so if we have to order anything, it's such a lag time, we're getting stuff now. So that's next week's plan.
Did you get the battery operated plows yet?
No, but we did go electric salt spreaders, so. There you go, keep it nice and quick.
Thank you, appreciate it. Jeff, how about you? You're up.
Nice and quick.
Nice and quick.
It's the highlights.
Let's see here.
Just email you a copy of this, Gail, you don't have to type it.
The Fair Access Committee, Poolsville, I'll just give you this, yep. Great attendance by the Montgomery County Council with the majority of council members present at the Poolsville Day breakfast, plus the county executive and several state delegates, including Linda Foley, Lily Chi, and David Frazier Hildago. A transportation forum is scheduled for October the 12th to discuss White's Ferry, plus improved access to transportation in the western Montgomery County area.
Where's that going to be, the forum?
I know the answer to that.
All right, forget it.
That's going to
Okay, go
be,
ahead.
that's going to be
Yeah, I
at the
have it on
Black
my
Rock
calendar.
Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Fair Access Committee also highlighted the need for improved healthcare facilities. Town announcement, Town Clerk Bobby Evans has announced her retirement as of December 31st, 2023. Helmholtz Park restroom, the Commissioners passed a motion to rebuild the restroom at Helmholtz Park to be ADA compliant and replaces a 40-year-old restroom. The contract award is $270,859. The total project is $303,718.
Used to be 50,000.
Pools,
Yeah,
First time we did it.
listen to these numbers going.
PACC Pools Area Chamber of Commerce Chairman Tom Kettler spoke during public comment to advocate for selecting a local business when the town awards contracts. Montgomery County Pesticide Law, Mr. Don Street and Ms. Soledad Aguilar from the Sustainable Poolsville Committee spoke to advocate for the adoption of the Montgomery County Pesticide Law. Currently, only Poolsville and Laytonsville are the only two municipalities that have not adopted the Montgomery County Pesticide Law. The adoption of the Montgomery County Pesticide Law is recommended by the Poolsville Water Supply Evaluation conducted by SS Papadopoulos and Associates back in October of 2021. The Commissioners voted unanimously to adopt the Montgomery County Pesticide Law. Full details of the Montgomery County Pesticide Law can be found at montgomerycountymd.gov/lawns/law. Establishment of a, something else here, something, yeah. Yep. Establishment of a Poolsville Forest Conservation Bank. The Planning Commission has determined that they would rather see tree plantings stay within Poolsville and not accept a fee in lieu of option from developers. The Planning Commission has determined that the best way to meet the forestation regulation requirements is to set up a forest bank in town and allow developers to fulfill their plan obligations by contributing to the forest bank. The forest bank is located near Coteen Way. Hart's street name, Mr. Hart presented the name of Wild Turkey Way. In accordance with Resolution Number 3-20, we hereby request the street accessing the 8-lot, 18.4 acre subdivision on the left as you enter Poolsville, which is directly across from our home at 19101 Fisher Avenue, be Wild Turkey Way.
It's like is in whiskey?
You should have
I
been
think,
the last meeting, Tim.
Maybe, I don't know.
I should have been there.
Not that, this qualifies under Category 4, name of flora and fauna indigenous to the area.
In whiskey.
The Commissioners voted to approve Wild Turkey Way. The Donegan property, Commissioner Radigan provided an update of the development of the Donegan property. That's over here by CVS, behind Tractor Supply. The Donegan property is a property along Fisher Avenue and Wooten Avenue behind or next to CVS in the front of the Tractor Supply parking area. Commissioner Radigan noted that the Planning Commission provided preliminary approval on the plan to develop 39 townhomes. Commissioner Eck noted this reminds him of the congestion in Clarksburg. The developer, Mr. John Petrella, noted that he also developed a part of Clarksburg. Commissioner Eck noted that he was disappointed with the plan.
Commissioner Eck wanted to go outside and fight him.
Town Manager Report, Wade Yost. Well number 3 is back online and supplying clean, PFAS-free water, non-contaminant water. The test performed by MDE, that's the Maryland Department of Environment, showed non-detectable PFAS levels remaining from well number 3. The actual breakthrough point on well 3 has not yet been reached. Therefore, we do not know how often the filtration medium will need to be changed. The testing on well number 2 for PFAS continues. And well number 2 is currently offline. Town Manager Wade Yost is meeting with Town Attorney Jay Gullo regarding the PFAS legal settlement of the class action lawsuit against 3M and how the town should proceed, since we did join that class action suit. The pump at well number 7 burned up, again due to last weekend's heavy rain. The lynching memorial sign was received. Preston will erect a sign in the designated spot near the community garden on Elgin Road. The dedication event is Sunday, October 22nd, from 3 to 5 at the Poolsville Presbyterian Church, which is right next door. In the event of rain, the ceremony and reception will be held at the Poolsville Memorial United Methodist Church. Assistant Town Manager Niles Andrade, Rocktoberfest is coming up on Saturday, October the 21st, from 2 to 6 p.m. Bands, beer, food, trucks, artisans, and more, plus a hospitality tent for the Poolsville volunteers, which is us. Lost my place. And commissioner members to show appreciation for all of their volunteer efforts. The next Wellness Wednesday is October 25 for stroke prevention. Niles met with Civic Plus to kick off a redesign of the town website. Poolsville Day Summary, improved weather-related communications to be timely and accessible. Make sure that the vendors know that their tents need to be secured with weights. Love, Jeff. That's it.
Anybody else got anything else?
Motion adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.